Well, the Ask Energy question of the week comes from Eric, and Eric wants to know which supplements should he take. So this is a huge animal, as we all know, right? Let me just go back a couple steps. Supplements have really gained a lot of attention, probably in the last 10, 15 years specifically. I've seen a significant uptick with athletes wanting or using supplements for various reasons, right? But to start off with, here's what we need to really uncover first is the different classes of supplements. So in my practice, my sport nutrition practice at eNRG Performance, my goal is to educate athletes on the three classes. So if you kind of put supplements into these three classes or into these three buckets, it makes looking and maybe even researching supplements a lot easier for you because you'll be organized. Okay, to the classes. First class is micronutrient health and longevity. So micronutrient health and longevity basically are those supplements that anything like multivitamins, iron, calcium, zinc, vitamin D, fish oil, like omega-3 fats, although those kind of go into different categories in addition to this one. These are typically supplements taken for either micronutrient deficiencies. So for example, maybe you had your vitamin D tested and it shows low, and you will take a vitamin D supplement to try to increase it. Another reason to take it is just for overall health. So that could be like a multivitamin, right? It's like an insurance policy. And maybe you're just taking it because, you just want to kind of fill in the blanks a little bit based on how you're eating. Now, this class or this category of supplements should never be consumed just to substitute something that you're not eating, right? So, oh, hey, I don't eat fruits and vegetables, I'm just going to take a supplement, right? This is also where greens powders can come in, greens, reds, blues can come in. So if you want to classify it into this specific category, they are micronutrients that affect health and longevity. Now, there are some longevity supplements, and I'm not going to get into this because that's for a future Ask Energy, because this category is blowing up right now, the aging and supplements. But normally speaking, like I said, back to this, first class is micronutrient for health and longevity, okay? That's kind of a pretty easy category, because what I would recommend, Eric, is that you have some biomarkers tested first. So have your vitamin D, have your B12, your folate, iron. Those are great ones to have measured, because sometimes you don't even need to take those micronutrients unless you are deficient. Okay, so that's category one. Category or class number two are sport supplements. So this is a huge category. This is energy bars, energy drinks, sport drinks, energy gels, energy gummies, protein powders, could be electrolyte supplements, everything that you would use kind of around that nutrient timing window, that before, during, and after window of training or just exercising. So a lot goes in here. And typically what I say to athletes is, you want to periodize this category, this class. So you don't always have to eat energy bars. You don't always have to have protein powder. You don't always have to eat gels, right? There's a time and a place for sure, right? And I will just mention one thing, protein powder, in a second, but most of these are just within the season that you'll be training. For example, you may not eat energy gels or energy gummies in an off season because you're not really training, so you may not use them, right? You may not need them, so just go back to food. The one exception that I have for some athletes is protein powder, whether it's animal-based or if it's plant-based. Sometimes, if you're not doing a great job with getting enough protein in your normal daily nutrition program from animal-based proteins or plant-based proteins, sometimes a protein powder can actually be helpful to try to increase your daily protein intake if you are just not eating enough. So I totally get that. And that's probably the only one that I would hold in that category that you could do year round. Okay, now the third category, the third class, is ergogenic aids. So this one, ergogenic, means performance enhancing. So these are substances, these are supplements that are specifically taken to increase performance in sport or training. So here's the interesting thing. There actually are a lot of ergogenic aids, but not a lot of them actually have scientific support and research. So there's only a handful of ergogenic aids that we look at because they have a ton of research, most often proven safe for most individuals. Of course, if you have any health conditions or any medical conditions, you should consult your physician, and certainly a sport dietitian if you're thinking about taking supplements, but certainly consult your physician first if you have any complications in terms of your health or medical well-being. Now, these ergogenic aids, just giving an example of these are creatine, these are beta-alanine, nitrates, caffeine, sodium bicarbonate. So those are probably the most popular ones that have a good amount of research that we know they work. Now, not everybody needs to take them. Just because they work and they're somewhat safe and from what research says, it doesn't mean you have to take them, right, for performance enhancing. I mean, most people consume caffeine, coffee and chocolate and tea and whatever, right? But you may not be using the right dose of caffeine to have an ergogenic effect or performance enhancing effect. So this category, there's a little bit of a slippery slope because a lot of them, there are specific protocols and dosages that you need to absolutely implement. You can't just say, oh, I'm gonna have a cup of coffee and my performance is gonna improve. Now, you may, right? If you are not caffeine habituated and you start drinking coffee or consuming caffeine, yes, initially you may have an increase in performance. But if you are caffeine habituated and you just take the normal amount of caffeine you normally take each day, you're not gonna see an ergogenic performance enhancing effect. So, like I said, this category is a little bit slippery because I would absolutely encourage you to try, if you're going to try one of these supplements, try it with or under the guidance of a sport dietitian because he or she can help you guide in the dose and when you should properly take these ergogenic aids. Okay, so back to it. Eric, I know this doesn't tell you exactly what supplements to take, but if you're thinking, oh, okay, this is making sense now. If I look at supplements in 3 categories, micronutrient for health and longevity, sport supplements, and then we've got the ergogenic performance enhancing aids, then it starts to become a little more clear because then you can guide yourself like, okay, if I'm thinking about taking a supplement, well, it's in the micronutrient. Oh, maybe I'm thinking about taking a multivitamin. Okay, well, it's in the micronutrient category. So you're one step closer to knowing maybe if you should take that supplement. Now, of course, all of us are different. All of us are N of 1 experiments. We have different genetics, different health needs. We have different longevity needs, aging needs, different sports. So what I would tell you, Eric, and everybody else listening to this is consult with a very good sport dietitian. If you have questions in terms of should I take sport or should I take supplements, because here's what we do first. We actually look at what you're eating first, and we look at your medical health history, and we'll look at genetics if you've got some genetic data. And then and only then will we actually start putting together the puzzle and say, yeah, maybe you do need some supplements, but maybe you don't, right? So reach out to myself, my team of sport dietitians at eNRG Performance. And Eric, thank you so much for the question.